Turn to Genesis. Turn the first division of the Old Testament, the first 5 books of the law. Sometimes we call them the law. Hebrew word for law is Torah, which means instruction. These first 5 books are commonly known as the Pentateuch. The Pentateuch is the Greek word meaning 5 scrolls, right? So it's called the Pentateuch. It's the Greek word meaning 5 scrolls, right? These are the books of the law. The Jews call them the books of the law or the Torah because that's where the law is set out. That's not the only place you'll find the law, and there's a whole lot more there that you'll find that has to do with a whole lot of other things, but generally speaking, we call these the books of the law. Who is the author of these 5 books? I will allow anybody who wants to go ahead. Moses is the author of the first 5 books of the Bible, right? Another title for the collection, sometimes you'll see, especially among Jewish people, they call them the books of Moses, right? Because they're also, how do we know what happened? Is because Moses wrote it down under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, right? For many years, this was Israel's only Bible. Their only Bible were these 5 books. And so what could the Israelites be expected to know just by having 5 books? Everything they needed to know to make them wise into salvation, they didn't need anything else. Were they given more than just these 5 books? Yeah, they were. They were given a lot more than that. They were given the miracles that God performed for them, leading them out of Egypt. There's a lot of things that they saw, right? But these first 5 books of the Bible were Israel's only Bible for many, many years. So through Moses, God is going to reveal himself to the children of Israel. He's going to reveal his works. He's going to reveal the history of Israel, its role in the redemption of mankind. So these are important books in our Bible. One purpose for Moses writing the Pentateuch is brought out by John MacArthur. He said this: because the Israelites' knowledge of the world in which they lived came through the Egyptians, as well as the Mesopotamians, there was much confusion about the creation of the world, its present state, and how Israel came into existence. Now think about what he's saying here. These books were written before, Moses wrote these books down right before the children of Israel were to go into the promised land and to take the promised land, right? That's when these 5 books were written. Now this was a generation of Israelites who had not come up in necessarily grown up in Egypt, right? But their forefathers grew up in Egypt. So they really, and especially if they grew up in Egypt or their parents grew up in Egypt, all the things that they adopted, the religious beliefs of the Egyptians or the ideas of the Egyptians, a lot of those things that they may have even subconsciously adopted, God needed for them to know this is how the world came into existence. This is the nature of man. This is sin. This is the nature of marriage. Because all those things were different depending on whether you talk to the Egyptians or whether you're talking about God, right? So the people of Israel had to know about their history. They had to know about these things. It helped them to understand about their origins as a nation, the origins of the universe, the nature of creation, human labor. It taught them about sin. It taught them about marriage, taught them about murder and death and judgment and why there's so many different languages and the flood, and taught them about all those things that they had been taught, but they needed to be reminded and have it written down for them, right? So Genesis 1 through 11 helps them understand the origins of a lot, right? So turn to Genesis 12, Genesis chapter 12, just real quick. And we're just going through the Pentateuch. We're not going through Genesis, but the first 3 verses here in Genesis 12 are muy importante. That means very important if you don't speak Spanish. Muy importante. And some of y'all, I mean, in Texas, everyone speaks a little Spanish, right? Like, más salsa, por favor. Más salsa y chips, por favor, right? That's the way we speak. It's a Spanish word. Anyway, are you at Genesis 12? All right, good. Now the Lord, verse number 1, now the Lord had said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred. This is important transition in the book of Genesis. Important transition for mankind, I guess, historically. And the Lord said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house and unto a land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation. I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee and curse him that curseth thee. And in thee, important part here, in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. So the first 11 chapters of the book tells Israel because who is Moses writing this to? He's writing it to the children of Israel, right? That he's not writing it to the Egyptians. He's not writing this information for the Mesopotamians or any of those other people, the Babylonians, Assyrians. He's writing it to the children of Israel so they can know about their history. They can know about these things. So the first 11 chapters tell all about the origins of the universe, the origins of man, the nature of man, the human labor and marriage and sin and all those things, redemption and judgment. Now here in chapter 12, there's a transition, right? He's instructing those people and God's purpose for them. He's giving them here in Genesis chapter 12, he's telling them about this is why you're here. God appeared first to Abraham, and God gave Abraham a threefold promise. First, he would give them a land. Verse number 1, unto a land that I will show thee. Second, verse number 2, he's going to give them a descendants. I will make thee a great nation. He's going to make of Abraham a great nation, of Abraham's descendants. Number 3, he's going to give them a blessing. I will bless them that bless thee, curse him that curse thee, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. So that's the threefold blessing that God promises here to Abraham. The rest of Genesis is just a fulfillment of these promises. You'll see the promises restated to Isaac, the promises restated to Jacob, and when Jacob has a change of name to Israel, the promises restated to Joseph. But basically the rest of Genesis is just a fulfillment of these promises. And you could say the rest of the Pentateuch is simply that as well, right? Let's look at each book very briefly. Genesis 1:1, very quickly, the Pentateuch. We're trying to get through the Pentateuch here. We could have a Pentateuch quiz next week if we wanted to. That'd be cool, kind of cool, huh? There's a new study out, and the title of the study is really good. The study is, because about 10 years ago, our district was one of the first school districts to do it. We went 1-to-1, and what that means is every kid has their own computer that they get to take home with them. It belongs to the school, but they get to have it all year long, just for them, right? Many school districts now, since 10 years ago, many school districts are 1-to-1 now. Every kid has their own computers. And the name of the article was, 10 years ago, we gave our kids computers, now they're even dumber. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And the author goes on to say now students have lost critical thinking skills to be able to find out information on their own. I frankly don't know how I could do it without YouTube. I can fix pretty much anything if I have the tools and I have YouTube, because YouTube will tell me how to fix whatever, right? And also that Google Maps helps me to find anything, right? So I can fix and find. But anyway, that's the idea. But anyway, Genesis 1:1, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. This announces that the eternally existing God made a spectacular transition. God transitioned into time and space. And if you want to get all weird and all hippy-dippy about this, which is kind of cool to do, which I was doing, I was getting all hippy-dippy last night at my son Jared's house, because he has a kind of a, Brother Greg, did you see that when you're out there, that big tower he has inside? Did he turn it on for you? Pretty cool. If you see it at night, it's really cool because everything else is dark. Anyway, I sat there and stared at that for like 20 minutes last night. I'm like, man, if I was not a Christian and if I was like a heathen like 100 years ago, I would probably be worshiping this thing. It's a cool, my son Jared has a lot of talents, but anyway, one of his talents is he has his own little shop and he does neons. He repairs neon signs, he makes his own neons, and he does all that sort of stuff. And anyway, it was a neon, what would you call it, brother? Column? A neon column that he built that's about, really? Wow, about 15 feet tall, would you say? 15, 18 feet tall. And it's solid red neons, and it's just like something you would see out of a science fiction movie that people are worshiping or something. It's really kind of cool. Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to get off onto that. But I said hippy-dippy because this is what's happening in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. The eternally existent God, how long has God existed for? Ever. Yes, thank you. For eternity. How long is eternity? Forever. Yeah, okay. The eternally existing God made a spectacular transition. He came into time and space. He created time and space. He came into time and space. And in similar fashion, God also in the New Testament would step out of time and space and live among mortal men as the Lord Jesus Christ, the second person in the Trinity, right? This book spans over 300 years from the fall all the way to the death of who in Egypt? I'm sorry, I said 300, my fault. Hold on, no, the book spans 300 years. Just Genesis, sorry, just Genesis, my bad. We're just in Genesis. Don't know if you turned to Genesis 1:1 when I said 2, but we're in Genesis anyway. 300 years from the fall to the death of Joseph in Egypt, then almost another 300 years between Genesis and Exodus from the death of Joseph to the birth of who in Egypt? In the book of Exodus? The main person in the book of Exodus? Moses, yay, the main person in the book of Exodus is Moses. So 300 years from the fall to the end of Genesis, and then another 300 years from Joseph's death at the end of Genesis to Moses' birth in the first part of Exodus. All right, Exodus chapter 1, quickly, Exodus chapter 1. Exodus 1, turn quickly, Exodus 1. All right, Genesis is very neatly and nicely divided up, 50 chapters. And if you're OCD, like sometimes I am, you like that when things are even and rounded out and all. Exodus 1:1. Now these are the names of the children of Israel which came into Egypt. So this starts with a listing of the family of Joseph who moved to Egypt to be helped by family of Jacob, who moved to Egypt to be helped by Joseph. It records now this book is going to record the escape of Israel from Egypt. And helped by the cloud of the Lord by day and the fire by night, and that cloud finally descending on the new tabernacle. Turn to Leviticus 1. Hurry, Leviticus 1. We only have a couple minutes here. Y'all took too long on that quiz. Leviticus 1. I blame Brother Mike for doing that. Leviticus 1. That's what I was told. I'm always to blame. Leviticus 1:1. And the Lord called unto Moses and spake unto him out of the tabernacle of the congregation. So I told you in Exodus, the cloud of the Lord descends upon the tabernacle. Leviticus opens with the Lord speaking out of that tabernacle, right? He's speaking out of, now turn to Leviticus 27. And basically Leviticus tells the Israelites how to approach a holy God. Do you think that's changed theoretically on or overall how to approach God? No, it hasn't. Now, the specifics may have changed, but overall, the idea of approaching God. Look at Leviticus 27, look at verse 34. Quickly, 27:34. It's the very last verse. These are the commandments which the Lord commanded Moses for the children of Israel in Mount Sinai. So they're parked there at Mount Sinai, and that's a summary of the whole book right there. Now you're at Numbers. Look at Numbers 1:1. And the Lord spake unto Moses in the wilderness of Sinai in the tabernacle of the congregation. Once again, the book's name comes from the fact that these first 4 chapters, by the way, give the census of God commissioning Moses to count the people and do a census. So these first 5 chapters is all just genealogy and giving a census of those, and they're preparing to take over the promised land. And usually when you're prepared to go to war, you count your soldiers, right? So he's numbering the people, not like when David did it and sinned. But no, God tells Moses to number the people. And most of the rest of the book is best described by the title in Hebrew. The Hebrew title to this book is Wilderness. They just call it Wilderness. Because the rest of this book is Israel's being led by God through the wilderness to the promised land. Now remember what happened. This is after the spies refused to take the land, God punished them. Look at Numbers 14. Quickly. We're almost done. Numbers 14, everybody. And I'm almost there. There we go. And Numbers 14, look at verse 26. If I didn't say that, no, I didn't. Verse 26. Numbers 14, verse 26. And the Lord spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying, how long shall I bear with this evil congregation which murmur against me? I have heard the murmurings of the children of Israel, they murmured against me, saying to them, as I truly live, saith the Lord, ye have spoken in mine ears, so will I do to you. Your carcasses shall fall in this wilderness. They refused to go take the promised land. This was their punishment. That generation is going to not enter into the promised land. They're going to pass away. Israel has to wander through the promised land another 40 years because of their sin against God. And the last one's Deuteronomy. And I'll just read, you don't even have to turn, I'll read it for you real quick. Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse number 1. Deuteronomy, especially in verse 2. It says, these be the words which Moses spake to all Israel on the side of Jordan wilderness, the plain against the Red Sea. Verse 2, they're 11 days' journey from Horeb by the way of Mount Seir into Kadesh Barnea. They spent 40 years traveling what really should have taken 11 days because of their sin, right? And so the first 10 words give the setting of the book. Moses preached, it says right here, these are the words which Moses spake unto Israel. Moses preached, or he spake 3 speeches to the children of Israel to prepare them to go in and take the promised land. The book of Deuteronomy is a book of his 3 speeches, or his 3 preaching that he gave to the children of Israel. And what does he preach? He restates the law and he applies it to Israel's new circumstances, right? And then we'll have to pick up, because we already heard the bell, right? But anyway, God is going to restate his covenant in Deuteronomy 34 with Israel, to restate his covenant, and he's going to let them enter into the promised land and defeat the inhabitants. Of course, that is the book of Joshua, right? That we see is the 6th book. But we got to stand and be dismissed with a word of prayer, so let's stand.